What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday afternoon with the man himself, Rio. What's going on to Little Neck, Paraby, William, Jima, Smitch, NY. Appreciate all the true grinders hanging out. This will be our second last show of the year. Rio and I were talking a little pre-show. Going to hit it today. Going to hit it tomorrow. Rio and I for both of them. Next week's the last week. Then we got playoffs. The good thing about all that, the slate plan doesn't go away. Rio's work doesn't go away. It just all now is behind the paywall, I guess. Discord is absolutely huge. So NBA slate plan, showdown content only gets better as the playoffs go, especially deep in the playoffs. Content's actually awesome there. So no shows, but we will have MLB shows that will take place, MMA, PGA, all that, of course. Everything then going behind slate plan, Discord. Rio, how we doing? Pretty excited for the playoffs coming up this last week, last 2 weeks, even 3 weeks. It's definitely a grind. A lot of big spreads, crazy injury stuff, whole starting lineups resting, but obviously money to be made. What's your thoughts, though?
Yeah, I feel like tonight's slate is definitely better than yesterday's. The slate before yesterday's, so what that would have been Tuesday, was a really good slate. But yesterday was kind of gross as expected. Had a lot of very similar lineups up top, but it's kind of what you come to expect at this point of the season. We're going to get a lot of these like clear-cut values, but then there's also some weird shenanigans that have been going on. A couple teams on this slate, I think, have a lot of those like weird shenanigans going on, but they're trying to clearly tank and get some of their good players out of the lineup. But the playoffs is going to be a lot of fun. We'll have all the content covered there, and I think there's a millie coming up for NBA. I'm assuming that's for finals. That's for the finals, like game 1 or something like that. Which would be great. So they've been running some qualifiers for that, the satellites for the last couple months. So I think it's a good time to get into the satellites and try to stack up some of the tickets for that, because that should be a lot of fun. I'm assuming that's going to be the showdown, so probably be a split. Last year we had a ton of success with the showdown, and I think this year's been pretty good. It's been a little bit more off and on just because we don't really have the same prize pools that we had last year. But yeah, we'll definitely get prepared for the playoffs.
You absolutely crushed the showdown stuff. Here, I'll pull up just quick, then we'll get into it. Just the showdown slate plan for those that aren't familiar with how it looks. And again, Rio adds a lot of good stuff in Discord as well. So he gets the main core, core 2, core 3. That's the least important thing on the sheet, in my opinion. I don't think you should just be tailing core plays, but captain exposures. Then Rio breaks down just LeBron and I don't know why I thought of this, but LeBron, Anthony Davis on a slate in the beginning of the year is just like, it's those two, and then it was clear as day. Nobody else you liked. Clear. You play those two in every lineup. Flex exposure, all the values, all this and that. He breaks it down. Roster construction, leaving money, everything. Definitely a very detailed and good breakdown down here. So it's always fun. As the games go on, the series shorten up. Man, when you get the one-off slates, huge prize pools, definitely a big edge there. Yep. Oh, Little Neck did confirm it is game 1 of the finals. Nice. All right, Rio. Let's go back to Saberson. Let's talk some hoops. 6 games on tap. Any broad slate overview? Talking injuries, talking spreads, a couple double-digit ones out there, couple solid ones. What stood out to me, what I love about NBA, so I am playing it tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. 6 of the 7 games then are done, and you get a little window after that for Lakers, Warriors at night. Initial thoughts on the slate before we go game by game?
Yeah, I think there's 3 clear games, obviously the ones that have a close spread, but the Warriors-Lakers game is the one that's definitely got my eye. I think that's very similar to like the Memphis Warriors game we had the other night, where we're going to get some pretty good ownership on the Warriors side especially, and a really close spread, and what a game that should be some tight rotations. But we kind of there are some lineups that we'll be waiting on for, like the Toronto stuff, still waiting on Scotty Barnes injury news. We're waiting on what we think the Washington lineup will look like. They rolled a couple guys out. Jordan Poole got rolled out, so they could do a couple weird things there. But I think it's a decent slate. Like I think it's a one that you just kind of get your studs in the main games, the ones that are going to be close spreads, and then get some of the value in the other games. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
I love it. And yeah, that Memphis Warriors game, Chef Curry, absolutely on one. Great call there. Low ownership. Needed him for sure to win the GPP that day. All right, let's go first game of the night. Big spread in this one. The Bucks, 12-point favorites over the Philadelphia 76ers. 228.5 total in this one. Injuries on the Bucks side. Dame is out. AJ Green is questionable. On the Philly side, Yabusele is questionable. Kyle Lowry is out. Well, you said studs in close games. Giannis is a stud. He's not in a close game, though. What's your thoughts on him? What's your thoughts on really anything? I mean, sorted by ownership in this game, second average from SHIPIT Nation and SaberSim. The values was popping here, and then a little bit of Giannis, and then your favorite boy Kuz. Yeah, I don't love this game too much myself. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just kind of, I don't know, flip-flopping like what I want to do with Giannis. Obviously, this is a great matchup. The Sixers' rim defense in the second half of the season has been pretty much the worst in the league. But they're, I think the Spurs might be a little bit worse than them. But it's been really bad. So this is a great matchup for the Milwaukee guys, especially Giannis, who's going to be getting to the basket at will here. The reason I'm kind of unsure what to do with him because we haven't seen Milwaukee. Like Milwaukee's not playing very good right now. They struggle to compete against playoff caliber teams, and they're also struggling to put away some of these tanking teams. So I think there's an off chance that Giannis could get full run tonight, which would make him probably one of the best spends on the slate because he should get fantasy points with ease in this matchup. But the 12-point spread, Philly is highly incentivized to tank. They've done a really good job tanking. I don't know. They've lost like 10 straight, something like that. So they're doing a really good job getting themselves in a good draft position here. So I'm unsure what to do with Giannis. He could definitely smash in like 30 minutes, but if you tell me that he's getting 30 minutes tonight, I know for a fact I'm getting like 36 to 40 from Luka or LeBron tonight. I think that would make them much better options. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. I think that Milwaukee is going to blow them out. So I'll probably end up being a little bit underweight Giannis, as much as I love the matchup for him. Kuzma's okay at 6.2K. I mean, this is a good matchup as well. He's been playing a ton of minutes, but still struggles to put up fantasy points even with Dame off the court. Like he's never really killing you for not playing him, and the price is not cheap for for what we're getting from him from like a fantasy perspective. So I'd be okay being underweight both of those guys. I don't mind Brook Lopez as always. I think he's a good way to get low ownership in a team with a high point total, and it's a good matchup. The Sixers are giving up the second most threes per game to centers, and the third most fantasy points to opposing big men over the last 15 games. So I think that he's in a pretty good spot here. I would be max one, Ryan Rollins, and KPJ. I'm still going to side with KPJ, even though the minutes are going to be there for Rollins. Don't think this is really a spot where you're going to need his defense as much. Like we could get a longer rotation from KPJ like we did the game where he put up 40 DraftKings points. But definitely been max one of those two because they're not really overlapping a lot, if at all. And especially if AJ Green is back tonight, which it sounds like he will be, they're pretty much just going to be running the full 48 between Rollins and KPJ. So I think that being max one of those two guys makes a lot of sense. And then you can get like sprinkles of Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green. I think that those guys are all fine, but I don't love any of them in particular. I think there is some better value in some of these other games. Sixers side, I think it's going to be a full X out for now, unless Yabu gets ruled out. Then we could get to some Adem Bona because he'll play 30-plus minutes. I think Lonnie Walker is fine as is right now, 4.7K, playing 30 minutes, regardless if he's coming off the bench or not. Quentin Grimes is in a really good matchup here. Bucks have been getting killed by lead guards all season long. He did get up to 36 minutes against the Knicks last game, so there's a chance that if the game stays close, we get a little back and forth between him and Giannis. I think that is a smart way to play this game. If Grimes, then at least one of Giannis, Kuzma, or Brook Lopez, something like that, just to get some added correlation. But I don't love the Philly side right now. I just think that there's much better games to get into, and it's I would be kicking myself if I had a lot of Quentin Grimes tonight, and then we get like a 30-minute game versus the 36-minute game.
Yeah, it's really tough to get to the Philly stuff. The Giannis stuff's like you have concerns, and he's going to probably be the highest owned spend on the slate because there is so much value. He just projects the best. So if you already have concerns that way, he's the highest owned. There definitely is other options on this 7-game slate. Being underweight seems pretty easy for you. It's just, man, it is like even in 30 minutes against this rim defense, like he can get to the rim at will, and it can be a scary fade, but it's not like you're fully Xing him in MME stuff. I don't like the Kuzma stuff. Ryan Rollins, Porter Jr., I like how you made that rule max one. Again, I did do that. Add new rule no more than one Rollins KPJ. They're both going to get ownership. You said you had KPJ as the lean because they don't need his defense, so he can get extended run with the shooting?
Yeah, I think so. Like if the offense is struggling, if Ryan Rollins isn't doing well, they'll go to KPJ pretty quickly, and he doesn't need a lot of minutes to pay off. So it's if you get like 5 extra minutes, I think that's enough for him.
Yeah.
Especially because the prices flip-flop too. Like KPJ was more expensive than Rollins for the last week or so, and now he's cheaper coming in with less ownership.
Yeah. How would you compare them to – we'll kind of get to a next game, but they're a little more expensive, like Bub Carrington, A.J. Johnson's. Would you side with those guys with the minutes? Obviously, again, it's like $800 difference, $1,000. But would you side with the minutes ceiling and the floor for the Washington guys or KPJ? Because all of them are getting ownership.
I probably lean KPJ. I think the matchup's going to be a lot better for them. We don't really like attacking Orlando defensively, but also just the game environments that Orlando provides have made it just tough to get fantasy points from opposing teams. So I think you're just getting more possessions from the Milwaukee stuff that it's probably worth leaning into that a little bit more.
What about the Toronto stuff?
I would definitely side with the Toronto, and I even think that there's a guy on the Heat that is probably better than the Milwaukee guys.
Okay. Sorry. I know we're getting all over the place, but comparing Jacoby Walter and Shed to Rollins KPJ is definitely what people would be doing. All 4 will get ownership. Then in that guard range, we're going to get to Washington, Orlando. But, I mean, those are my favorite 2 plays in this game. Bub, A.J. Johnson playing all the minutes. Another huge spread, 15.5-point favorites are the Magic over the Wizards. 212 total, lowest on the slate. Injuries in this one on the Magic side. No injuries at all to talk about. On the Washington side, no Jordan Poole, no Keyshawn George, no Chris Middleton. Rashawn Holmes is doubtful. Anthony Gill is questionable. So, yeah, if we're sorting by value, Vukovic, I mean, he's definitely a good point per minute producer. Is there enough upside on the slate? Curious to hear your thoughts. Price around the KPJ, Rollins, Toronto guys, etc. A.J. Johnson, Bub Carrington, though, playing upper 30s minutes. Those are the 2 guys I have most interest in. Feel like they're very blowout-proof. Washington just doesn't have that many bodies, and they're playing these guys a bunch. Orlando stuff, I don't think I want to play Paulo and Franz. I think I like Giannis more. I like Luka more. The Miami hero Bam, I just don't think I want to go Franz or Paulo right now. They haven't broken the slate, it feels like, in the past couple weeks. If there were a matchup to do it, though, this is the one. So I don't know. Can the game stay close, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think Orlando is probably a little bit better than Sacramento right now, so they should be able to run away with this game pretty quickly. It was honestly good for the game environment to get a close game last night between Sacramento and Washington, but Sacramento should be extremely embarrassed for losing that game the way that they did, especially needing wins at this point in the season. I also think that Washington kind of screwed up by winning that game because obviously they're fighting for lottery position right now, and every loss counts. So I think that they'll, obviously ruling guys out like Jordan Poole, I think is an indicator that they're going to be taking this game off pretty hard. So the Washington side, I don't think that you can get to any of the guys that won't play. They have 9 guys available right now, but I would honestly view it more like 7.5 because I don't think Sarr is going to play deep into this game. Marcus Smart, he's off the injury report, but he's definitely not playing. He might not even play any minutes in the second half. And then they also have a Q tag on Anthony Gill. Rashawn Holmes is doubtful, so we could get some really good minutes on guys like Vukovic. He may even start. I see a projecting starting lineup with JT Thor in there. I think that does make sense to get a little bit more wing defense against Franz and Paulo. But there was talk a couple of weeks ago about getting Vukovic and Alex Sarr more minutes alongside of each other. That hasn't really come to fruition as much. But if he's starting tonight, he would definitely be a really, really strong value, probably the best value in that mid 4K range because he'll probably get close to 30 minutes. So he would definitely be my favorite option if he's starting. I think regardless, he's a pretty solid value play. But then I agree with you. I think that the guards is where I would look to next, A.J. Johnson and Bub Carrington. It is a matchup that is a little bit better for guards anyway, so I think that they're in a good spot matchup-wise, and then they also have the minutes to fall back on. It's great to see A.J. Johnson get this many minutes. I've seen a lot of beat writers say that they've been impressed with him, but from a fantasy perspective, he's been awful. I mean, you see the 32 fantasy points, which is great, but it took him 37 minutes to get there. He played 42 minutes against Brooklyn and didn't even touch 30 fantasy points in that game. So if we run into a scenario where it's the minutes are 32 instead of 37, that could really hurt you in a pretty big way if he doesn't get those minutes. So I'm a little bit cautious about him, but Bub gets his stuff a little bit like in easier ways. So I'm more willing to play him just because he can fill up the stat sheet a little bit. He got 8 and 9 rebounds and assists 2 games ago, 7 assists last game. Does a little bit of the defensive stuff as well. So his fantasy points come a lot easier. So I would be more willing to lean into Bub here for $400 more expensive. And then if JT Thor is starting, like he'd be okay just because he's min priced. I think that value would kind of go a long way on the slate. Another guy that's not a very good fantasy per minute guy, but if he's playing 30 minutes and he's in the starting lineup, power forward, normally a pretty weak position, I'd be okay with that. But yeah, there could be a lot of minutes that could go around here if we get news that Anthony Gill is out, because that would leave them very thin in the front court. And then I kind of echo what you think about the Paulo Franz stuff. I think obviously the matchup is great, but there's probably a good chance that neither one breaks the slate in a way where you really need them. If there were to be one, I would probably lean Paulo just because it's the way that he gets fantasy points. A lot of rim scoring, which is going to be good for everybody on Orlando because the Washington rim defense has not been good. And then he can also get a triple-double. There was that stretch where he was putting up 30 points on a nightly basis. I don't think this game is going to stay close. I think Orlando runs away with it. But obviously, I don't think you can overlook how good the matchup is for Franz and Paulo.
Yeah, I agree. It would definitely be Paulo for me, but Max 1 clearly compared to others on this slate. I don't love it for the spends. But at the end of the day, if you don't love Giannis, that could be getting on different builds, like underweight there. Could be one of those two guys that fills some of that stuff. Luka late, though, looks real, real good. And I like the Bam Hero stuff. We'll get to it in a little bit. Not really much more for me to add. He said Bub Carrington over A.J. Johnson. If Vuk starts, he's probably the best player on the slate. I mean, He's a great point per minute producer. Center's solid right now. He was still, I think, that would really make things interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of viable center options in that range too. So it would definitely open up some unique lineups, I would say. Maybe some double bigs. I could definitely see that being viable tonight.
That 4K center range would be absolutely loaded. And in Cleveland at 5K looks pretty good. 5.5 looks good too. All right, let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate. Appreciate everyone hanging out watching. NBA show, MLB will be on next. And golf will be actually, MLB won't be on. What am I doing? MLB always is on later. There's only 3 games early slate. PGA Showdown will be on with GS Luke later. Me and Big Marley will be on talking some MMA later. Tomorrow, MLB and NBA will be going on, and PGA. So head over to SHIPITNation.com. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. Helps us out a ton. Toronto Raptors, Portland Trailblazers, 5.5-point favorites. 4.5-point favorites now are the Trailblazers. 224 total. Injuries on the Portland side. No Scoot Henderson. Anthony Simons is questionable. Toronto side, no Emmanuel Quickley, no Jakob Poeltl. Scotty Barnes is questionable. So Simons missed last game. Then Banton, we got the Banton start. He played well. Denny Avdia continues to be the best player to ever play. Toronto side, no Quickley, Jakob Poeltl. Scotty Barnes, you mentioned it. If he misses, I mean, these guys are already strong. Shed, Jacoby Walter, Orlando Robinson, a guy we just talked in that loaded center range. No Scotty. I mean, man, all these guys, how many Toronto would be too many? Break down this one. Do you have a lean on Scotty Barnes Q-Tag?
I don't have a lean, but I would imagine he's out tonight. I think that they are on a back-to-back. And then you obviously have Quickley and Poeltl out, so it makes sense to get those guys back for tomorrow. But both these teams are kind of, they want to lose games right now. And they've kind of both been playing pretty solid on defense. So there is a chance that this game plays on the lower end, which would make it interesting from a fade standpoint, because both sides are getting a lot of ownership. I think that these guys are going to be good plays. I don't really believe that Toronto's a good defense. I definitely don't believe that Portland is a very good defense. They also get beat up in transition. Toronto's been a team that gets beat around the rim all season long, give up a lot of rim points. And then I would say replacing Poeltl with Orlando Robinson, I would say that's more of a negative move, if anything. So Portland should be in a good spot here. I would also think that Simons misses here. They have a back-to-back against Chicago tomorrow, so maybe they sit him tonight, get him back tomorrow, which would make Banton another great play. Probably another guy that I would be I'd be waiting for, and I would get over the field. That's probably a guy that I'd be starting with in single entries if you were playing single entries tonight. He's just such a good per minute producer. does a lot of everything. And the minutes were kind of light in the first half because he started out, I believe, 1 for 8 and then had a ton of minutes in the second half. So there's a chance, like if he starts off hot, the minutes could be, instead of 28, like 35. And he honestly could put up like 50 fantasy points if that's the case, because he's just such a good per minute guy, really big guard that can do a little bit of everything, triple-double threat if he gets the minutes. But yeah, like you said, Denny playing great, averaging 43 DK points in the second half of the season, coming off of a 72-point DK outing. Think that he's a great spend-up option tonight. 8.6K would be even better if Scotty Barnes were to miss, because Scotty is a pretty good defender against wings like Denny. So that'd be a really good spot to attack if Scotty Barnes gets ruled out. And if Simons gets ruled out, then we're talking like, I mean, wheels up for Denny. He's just playing so good right now. I think Sharp is in play regardless. He's playing a ton of minutes, 39 minutes in each of his last 2 games, put up 42 and 56 in those games. And then if Simons were to miss, a lot better for Sharp as well. I think if Simons is in, I'd probably be taking an underweight stance again like I normally do against him. He just doesn't really do it. Like from a fantasy perspective, hasn't paid off his price tag in quite some time. So I'd be fine getting away from him, especially if he's coming in at 40% owned. And then Kamara is interesting as a pivot off some of these guys on Portland. The Raptors are allowing the 5th most turnovers per game in the second half of the season. Getting Scotty Barnes out of the lineup, I think that would even hurt them even more. Get some lesser guards and lesser guys that can't really handle ball as well. So I think Kamara could have one of those spike games where he gets like 3 to 4 steals, a block or 2, and then you get 10 fantasy points right there. So I wouldn't mind him as a mid-tier option, pivot off some of these guys. And then Klingon, I think, is very interesting. The minutes have been solid for him, 29 to 33 in each of his last 4 games, or 3 of his last 4 games. And the rim defense has not been great for Toronto. They've been giving up a ton of fantasy points to opposing bigs. So he would definitely be another strong center option on what looks like a loaded center slate. The Raptors side, just got to wait for Scotty Barnes. I don't think he's going to play, so I would be prepared for that. Jacoby Walter would be really good. Mobo, I don't think he would start, but he'd definitely be playing a lot of minutes. He's already been playing a lot. He's only 4K power forward center eligibility. But I think the guys I'd probably be focused on would be Jacoby Walter and maybe a little bit of Jamison Battle. He's only 3.7K. He might start. I think that they would go Oshai, but those guys would be getting a bulk of those wing minutes. I would like those 2 guys the most. And then Orlando Robinson, not sure how he stacks up against some of the other center options. Like I think he might be like 5th between all the guys in that 5K or the low 5K range. Like I definitely prefer ED Vuk if he's starting. Probably Timmy a little bit better as well. Yeah, but I mean he would still be in play. Like the Blazers rim defense is not great by any means. Klingon is a really good shot blocker, but not great rim protector. So I'd be okay with Robinson, but I think that some of those other options are a little bit better. And then I'm not paying 8K for RJ Barrett, who's probably only playing like 28 minutes. He can get there. He's done it a couple times, but I would probably just stay away from that.
You think you'd 3 max Toronto? Like I'd be fine with Walter, Battle, Shed, assuming Scotty's out, but like adding Mogbo or O'Shea or even Orlando Robinson, does that feel a little too much, which is so much value on the slate?
Yeah, I think 3 sounds like probably the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think all 3, Walter, Battle, Shed, though, would be very, very elite plays.
Yeah.
And probably, yeah, like you said, you liked him more than the KPJ Rollins stuff, and you like the Rollins KPJ stuff more than the Washington stuff. So there that leaves you. Toronto, the best value on the slate, assuming Scotty Barnes is out. And man, like this is, I guess you said people are saying that both teams want to tank, so what they're going to miss on purpose or play slow on purpose or I mean, there's no way I can get away. Especially if the team
the Raptors are like way more willing to do some weird stuff. Portland's been playing it straight up. So I would that's why I don't really want to play like either Scotty or Barrett, because those guys aren't guaranteed second half rotations.
Yeah, I mean, even the bum, wasn't that Jamal Shed or who was it back? Rodin or no, Rodin went off. Shed was the one that got benched at half.
Shed played. No, it wasn't even halftime. It was like before halftime. I think he played 12 first half minutes or like 12 or 7 first half minutes. He was plus 17, so they benched him because he was playing too well.
Yeah.
And then they went. That was like that was probably the most frustrated I've been this season.
I mean, yeah, you pick a shout out to another great call, Castle, yesterday. Thank you, Todd, for that. But yeah, you pick everything. You do your job, but the coaches, he does his job. Everyone's doing their job.
You did your job too well. We don't want to win. So yeah,
their coach is such a joke. Like I remember 2 years ago, they weren't getting calls, and he said Scotty Barnes was the face of the NBA. I don't know what the fuck.
That's a hot take, buddy. Yeah, that's a.
Yeah, they're not even in America. Like, no, they don't. Like, come on, dude. Nobody thinks Scotty Barnes is like a top 10 NBA player.
No, not a chance. All right, let's keep it rolling. We don't need to be talking about that. Next game, not what I love for DFS. Big favorites are the Minnesota Timberwolves, 13 over the Brooklyn Nets, 215 total, the second lowest on the slate. Reason I don't like the Minnesota side, they are fully healthy, which is very rare in April. Brooklyn stuff, Jalen Wilson questionable, then Cam Johnson and Zaire Williams are out. I mean, yeah, I don't really know how you can play a fully healthy team. Max 1 for sure, but there's just a billion other spots where teams are injured. Not the case for Minnesota. If you sort by value, I don't know, Gobert, I guess. Center's loaded, though. I never love clicking Gobert much. Curious to hear your thoughts. Maybe if the game stays close. I'm not playing Conley on this slate with a million other 4K guards. Not clicking. I don't know. I guess if I were to play anyone, it'd be probably the Dante, Nas, Randall, Gobert mid-tier stuff in a chalkier lineup. I still don't love it. We'll see what you say. Net stuff, yeah, Drew Timme will be one of those centers people click. Keon Johnson maybe a little bit. I don't know how many Nets I want to play when they're implied for 101 points, the second lowest on the slate. I will say, though, shout out to you on the Orlando Magic, -4, got that home. Freaking Dallas a couple nights ago, losing straight up to these Nets. Are they going to compete? Like, what's going on? DFS-wise, though, not a game I like much at all.
Yeah, I mean, they can compete. Like, they still have guys that are NBA caliber players like D'Lo and Claxton. I think the list probably ends there. But, yeah, I think Minnesota runs away with this one. They're getting their guys back after the one-game suspension. They've been playing really well on both ends of the court. Offensively, going to be firing away from deep, so they could really run up the score and run away with it in a big way. So I don't really want to get to much. I agree. I think it's going to be a max 1 for Minnesota. And I also agree that it's probably the mid-tier guys I would look to, like Gobert, Nas, Dante, but I don't love any of those guys in particular. If I had to choose one, I probably would go Gobert, just because the rim defense and rebounding has been pretty bad for the Nets in the second half of the season, and he's been playing really good. I mean, he doesn't really need to put up like 25 real points to get there, because he put up 25 rebounds against Detroit. Like, that's what you want to see, and then maybe mix in a couple steals and blocks versus a team that doesn't really have a lot of talent. So he could definitely rack up those stocks. But yeah, I don't love the Minnesota side. Brooklyn side, probably just Timme for me as well. I think that he was a really good fantasy producer in college, I believe. I didn't really watch a ton of college, but I know he's been crushing in the G League, and he was a big name when he was in college. So that probably will translate to the NBA when he gets, a little bit more playing time. And if he's out there in garbage time, like if we get Minnesota's up by like 25-30 in the fourth quarter, and they bring in like Luka Garza and like Jalen Clarks and all those guys, then he could put up a lot of fantasy points pretty quickly. So I think that Timme is easily the best play on Brooklyn. He's going to get normal first half rotation, and then there's a chance that he gets like an extra 6-7 minutes in the second half on his rotation. So he'd be the guy I'd look to. I don't think that there's going to be enough value if we get news that like a Jalen Wilson is out. They have all these guys from the G League they brought up. They might do some weird stuff and start like Tosin. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I always mess it up. But he could start, probably see a little bit more minutes at the power forward position. But I think they'll probably give a bulk of those to Trent and Watford. But yeah, I think that this is just mostly a stay away game outside of Drew Timme.
Yeah, the garbage time stuff, like when you know a guy's going to get normal full run, and then it's a 50 or 13 point spread, and he has the blowout run to go on top of it as a good point per minute producer, it definitely adds up to be a strong play. But like if Vuk is starting, similar price tag, Vukovic just has to be stronger, higher floor and higher ceiling, it seems. And the Edey stuff, I mean, Edey projects much better. I'll say that. So ownership will be that big. What do you think there? We're about to get to Edey, but if an ownership gap is like 3x, 4x, is that enough to side with Timme a little bit, or you still think it's Edey?
Maybe like 4 to 5x. Then we're getting some pretty good leverage. Like I think, like what I said on Castle a couple slates ago, I think there's like some upside on Timmy that we haven't seen yet. I mean, we kind of did like the 30 against Washington in a good matchup is kind of something that I think was expected, but I feel like there's going to be a game maybe in the next week, probably like if they rule out Claxton or something like that, where Timmy puts up like 50 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of worth. I know he's been crushing it in the G League. The G League is obviously worse talent, but like these guys, the things that he does well will translate, like rebounding and
it's all paint
around the basket. Yeah,
I mean, he's actually shooting a couple threes too. Like if they go in, he has that extra upside, but he's just all footwork, paint points, finesse around the rim, and rebounding. Yeah, like that adds up fantasy points in a hurry for sure. Center's just so good on this slate, and it only could get better. Majority of builds will definitely be 2 centers. Timmy's definitely one of them. We're going to get to the next game. Yeah, appreciate everyone hanging out. 2 games left. Memphis Grizzlies and the Miami Heat. Zach Edey will be a very popular center here. We got Memphis 5.5-point favorites, 225.5 total. Injury news on the Memphis side. No Vince Williams, so another healthy team. Miami side, not so much. No Andrew Wiggins. Haywood Highsmith and Duncan Robinson are questionable. Also still without Terry Rozier. I mentioned like these Heat guys, Bam, Hero. I'm interested, honestly. Like comparing them to Paulo and Franz, which is kind of the right in the middle of Franz and Paulo. I'm good playing one of these two in a pretty close game with no Wiggins, no Rozier, kind of beat up team. Outside of that, I don't really love the value relative to the other stuff. Memphis side, Zach Edey looks strong. I don't know about like the Jalen Wells stuff. Are you playing Ja, Jaren? It's a fully healthy team, but a pretty close game. I feel better about Miami stuff. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I think the Memphis side is pretty interesting. I don't think this is a good matchup. I'm also kind of surprised that the spread is in favor of Memphis here because they're playing really bad right now, losers of 4 straight games. You kind of always see that. I feel like when there's a coaching change midseason, like it takes a while for these teams to kind of get back on track. And you also just have like a really immature guy leading your team with Ja Morant, like playing pretend shootout against Buddy Hield on the sidelines. So like I'm not sold that Memphis is going to beat Miami tonight. I feel like Miami could definitely win this game. They've won 6 in a row. Their defense is back on track. Hero's playing really good. Davion Mitchell's playing great coming off the bench. Like they have all the momentum. So I think Miami can win this game, but I do think that the spread should be close because neither of these teams are like much better than the other team. But with that being said, the Memphis side is still pretty interesting. So I think they're going to be tightening up the rotation. Obviously, losing 4 in a row is not a good look after firing your coach. So the best way to kind of get back on track is to play your guys heavier minutes. And I don't mind the matchup for the guards in particular. Bane and Ja, I think, are in a pretty decent spot here. The minutes have started to come up a little bit on Ja. Played 32 to in between like 32 to 37 minutes in the last 3 games since returning from injury. Bane, I think the matchup is a little bit better for him as like a primary off-ball scorer at times. The Heat, like we say, all year long, they play a lot of zone defense. I think they'll definitely run up the zone against Memphis here to kind of lead to a little bit more off-ball scoring for guys like Bane and Jaren and Santi Aldama. I think all those guys are pretty solid. I would probably be a little bit cautious playing Santi with Edey because I think that if we get like 32 to 34 from Santi, it's coming directly from Edey, especially in this matchup where the Miami front court is on the smaller side, like where I would kind of view him more as like a power forward. And the same thing with Bam. Like they're going to be able to stretch the courts. I think there's a potential for Edey's minutes to come down. But there's also some talk of like the reason why Jenkins got fired is because after the Brandon Clark injury, they were still not playing Zach Edey, which like you spent a high first round pick on this guy and then you barely play him. Just wasn't a good look. So I could definitely see a situation like even if they're losing where Edey is playing 30 minutes now because he played 32 against Golden State, was really good in that game, put up the 10-point double-double, 16 boards, 40 fantasy points. So I could definitely see a situation where they just run Edey's minutes up, but they still got to play Santi because he matched up really well here. So I would for sure be max 2 of Jaren, Santi, and Edey, but I would probably even consider being max 1 Santi and Edey. And then the Miami side, I agree with you. I think Hero and Bam are in good spots. I do lean Hero here. He's been playing really good, averaging. Sorry, I have the number here. He's averaging 48 DraftKings points over his last 4 games, playing a ton of minutes, going up against the second worst 3-point defense in the league, a team that struggles against guards all year long. I think this is a really, really good spot for Hero. A little bit less excited about Bam at this price tag in this matchup against Jaren Jackson. But if he gets into foul trouble, like we saw Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green have a huge game against Memphis, and Jaren Jackson Jr. almost always gets into foul trouble. So there's a good chance that he's matched up against like Santi and Edey, which would be a much better spot for Bam than it would be against Jaren. Where I think is okay is it was very, very good to see that the minutes were strong against Boston, because I was worried that the minutes had come down a lot. The fantasy production was not there, but anytime you're getting minutes, that's kind of all you can ask for. So I'd be a little bit interested in Ware, but he's pretty far down on the list in terms of priorities for centers. And then I think Davion Mitchell is a really, really sharp pivot off of some of these value guards in the mid 4K range. I mean, all he's been doing has been producing since he got to Miami, playing a ton of minutes. He's played no less than 32 minutes in 8 straight games, and he's top 30 DraftKings points in half of those games. So like 50% of the time, you're getting a pretty solid score out of a guy that's in the mid to upper 4K range. So I definitely like him. And then Larson, I got to mention him. He's been playing a lot of minutes lately, been playing really well. Averaging 34 DraftKings points over his last 3 games that he started. And they got to keep an eye on the Q tags. If Duncan were to miss and Haywood Highsmith, I believe he got downgraded throughout the day, that would open up some minutes for more for like Kyle Anderson, and maybe Jaime gets back into the rotation. But I feel like they're going to just condense a little bit more because they've been running a really, really tight rotation, basically an 8-man rotation, but it's been a little bit closer to 9 if Duncan's in there. But if both those guys were to miss, like it could be like 7.
Yeah, that's appealing. I mean, David Mitchell, he's good, man. He's a solid point guard. Now, is 28, 29 enough on this slate? I would take it and find out. We'll see. But at ownership, I definitely think you make a good case for him. The Hero stuff, like he looks so strong. You prefer him over Ja?
It's kind of even. Like I think that the ownership gets me on Ja a little bit more, and I do feel like the minutes could really come up. I also think that like the ultimate ceiling for Ja is better than it is for Hero. Like there are times when Hero can get to like 60, but I feel like for Ja it can come a little bit easier because he can get a triple-double.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like Hero a lot in this spot. Yeah, Memphis side's a little tougher, but you make a good case. Like the ownership's going to be pretty low on these guys, and you have a decent feeling that the minutes could rise 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Like if that's the case, all these guys are under projected, all these guys are under owned, and I like some of these Heat guys too. Solid game environments. I mean, there's a lot of big spreads on the slate that you can poke holes for concerns for the spends. This isn't really one of them, so I like it. I know you mentioned Lakers Golden State game, kind of like the other one, but looks like 2 Memphis games in a row that you think might be going a little under-owned.
Yeah.
All right, last game of the slate. Again, so you see 6 games right here, all locked, 7 to 7:30 Eastern, 2.5-hour window. Then we got the Lakers and Golden State. I mean, what a real-life game this is. Lakers 1-point favorites, 229.5 total. Injuries on the Golden State side. Kuminga's questionable. No Gary Payton. Lakers are fully healthy. Ownership, sorting, no one above 20%. I mean, that's kind of what you mentioned earlier. Like Luka at ownership versus Giannis, it feels like Luka to me. Yep. I'm surprised to see the ownership gap a little wide. Maybe it closes a little bit. Maybe that's to do with just point guard's so good and forward's not. Is that what you think it is?
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of what it seems like. There's a lot, like probably 6 to 7 point guards you could play over Luka and feel pretty good about it. And then it's easy to get to Giannis, just fill in that power forward position. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I think that all these guys are going to be under-owned. Did you have more to add, or did I just cut you off?
No, you didn't cut. When sorting by value, look at only one person above 5x, and it's Quentin Post. So this game it's so obvious how low owned this is going to be. It's 2 fully healthy teams, so it makes sense. Like you don't have value popping off the page. We talked about the Giannis versus Luka spend stuff, but yeah, go into why you do think it is really interesting.
Well, yeah, I don't think that people are making enough adjustments for situations like this, because you're just taking like your normal rates for guys over the course of the season. But I mean, this every single Golden State Warriors game and Lakers game has basically gone off over like the last 3 seasons. Like every game that LeBron and Steph face against each other, the minutes rise, the fantasy points rise up. They always get, like you say, Draymond gets up for games like this. This is definitely a game that he's going to get up for. It's definitely a game that Steph and LeBron will get up for. They've talked about it a bunch. Like LeBron has said, like, we don't know how many more games me and Steph are going to play against each other. So like, we're definitely going to play and go hard. So I think that we see the minutes for sure rise on the Lakers side. There's a little bit of risk on the Warriors side because they do have a really tough schedule to end the season. They play Denver tomorrow and then the Rockets on Sunday, I believe. But in terms of like the standings, they can definitely chase the Lakers. I'm just going to check real quick because I believe they're like 2 or 3 games back from LA right now. So they're 2 games back from LA. So a win here would be huge. Lakers are 3rd in the West. Golden State is 5th. So if they can win tonight and tomorrow, like it'd be huge for them to be able to get home court advantage. But just to like go through some of the numbers really quickly, I don't think matchup wise there's not a ton to go off of because both these teams have been playing really good defense in the second half. But we still know that the upside is there for all of Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Pods even. Like Steph had like a 95 point outing, DraftKings point outing last game. Draymond had the triple-double. Jimmy even got up to 48 DraftKings points in that game. So all these guys are in play. But Steph, I think, is definitely going to be the guy I'm going to be overweight on. And I wouldn't even, like, I'm not even kidding. I'm not going to be surprised tonight. I'm doing 150. I wouldn't be surprised if I have 100% of this game. At least one of Steph, Jimmy, Draymond will be in a lot of my lineups. And then I'll definitely have one of Luka or LeBron in all those builds. Steph is averaging 52.5 DraftKings points over the last 3 seasons against the Lakers. And even this season, he's averaging 46 against them. Had a couple of 50-point games, had one like 32-point outing. That's kind of weighing it down a little bit. But the minutes have been basically no less than 32, but all the way up to 37 in 3 of those games. So I think that with no ownership, Steph is a great spin up again. Jimmy, I'm a little bit less excited about at his price tag, but like I said, he still has the upside that can pay off at his price. He did put up 42 against the Lakers earlier this season, but that was when he was with the Heat. He hasn't played against the Lakers when he's been with the Warriors yet. But I do prefer Steph and Draymond over Jimmy. Definitely going to get some exposure to him though, but I think Draymond is pretty good at 6.5K power forward center eligibility. Probably would be playing him at power forward or forward if I am playing him. He's been okay against Lakers in his career, averaging 35.5 over the last 3 seasons. And then Pods should see more minutes, especially if Kuminga were to miss. We could see those minutes rise a little bit. But I think I'm a lot less excited about Pods just because the point guard, shooting guard value is so much better on the slate. But I do really like Steph. Lakers side is pretty straightforward. I think it's clearly Luka and LeBron or bust. And I do side with LeBron here. Hasn't had a bad game against the Warriors in the last 3 seasons. He's averaging 64.2 against them. One of Luka's best games did come against Golden State Warriors this season, but that was like in December, so they didn't have Jimmy. I think it's going to be a lot tougher. Matchup-wise, I think LeBron probably has Draymond on him, and then Jimmy on Luka. He matches up really well, but Luka did put up 45 points in a triple-double, 94 DraftKings points in this game, so clearly the upside can still be there for him. But I do side with LeBron for the savings. The small forward, power forward is a lot better. I'd probably be more inclined to go with like a LeBron Steph pairing and then maybe like Luka and Draymond. I think that makes a little bit more sense when you consider the pricing of those guys. And then I'll get sprinkles of Reeves because he still has shown he can have upside playing alongside 2 high usage guys like Luka and LeBron, like Anthony Davis and LeBron. Earlier this season, he had a triple-double on Christmas Day against the Warriors, and I believe everybody was available for the Lakers in that game. Did LeBron get injured in that one? I feel like he might have.
I don't know.
Pull it up. But yeah, I'll definitely get sprinkles of Austin Reeves in this matchup just because I think the game environment is going to be so good.
Man, you really are taking a 150. You're really, really bullish on it, making a rule to have at least one in every single. I like it. I mean, talk about a stand, and that's how you definitely – if you ship tonight, you might have a couple up top. Like your bubbles are going to be a lot closer than they usually are today. I like it, taking a stance like that. I don't really got
so AD got injured in that game. but
Okay.
the point still stands. He's done it with Luka still.
Jimmy's the one that it's tough for me to get behind. Like,
Yeah.
man, I just don't know really how the game has to go. Like, it just feels hard to see it being a Jimmy game. Like, I don't know how that really looks. A triple-double. I think you need a triple-double. Like an 18, 14, 12, a couple steals on Luka. I don't know. I love the Steph and all that stuff more.
It'd be bad for Jimmy if Kuminga does play, just because Kuminga demands so much usage when he's in the game, and they are overlapping Jimmy and Kuminga a good bit in that second unit. So I would be lower on Jimmy if Kuminga's in.
The problem is we won't have that news unless you just make the pivot to Austin Reeves, more so 300 difference. Obviously, guard forward, so it might be util, and you'll have two centers. That's tougher because, again, this game's 2.5 hours after the other stuff. Gun to your head, who wins this game? It's minus 118, minus 102, minus 1. It's pretty much a pick 'em.
I'll take the Lakers at home. They're getting healthy too with Rui. Rui's getting back, so I think that the Lakers might be able to take this one.
All right, what do you want to bet?
What do I want to bet?
Do you want like a little lunch bet? You want 20? You want a little better bet? 50? You want a steak dinner? 100? What do you want?
We can do a lunch bet.
Lunch bet for 20? Wait, yeah, 20? Or you eat your little expensive lunches. You need 50 for your lunch? What are we doing? 20 or 50?
20 would be good. I'll get an acai bowl or something.
That sounds good. I'll get avocado toast. You can see minus 102. I'm taking the dog.
Get the burrito.
Nades, oh yeah, I'll get a fat. I think I might actually head over there. Nades, if you're watching this, people that say I never take a night of EV bet, hey, minus 102, I'm on that side. So little juice I'm giving to Rio there. I got nothing really more. Injury news stuff will be big. Simons, I think, is the biggest one. And then if Vukovic and stuff starting, but that could be a lot of Trailblazers, a lot of Toronto. That's the game that seems obvious for the chalk. You're hammering this Lakers, Golden State, at least some of the spend pieces, and that's a way you can definitely get different underweight Giannis, like some of the hero stuff. I think that's how I summed it up from the show. Any final thoughts before we get on out of here?
No, yeah, I think that's it. I think I'll just grab my value from some of these other games. I will definitely get to some of the spend ups in that Memphis and Miami game because I do think that there probably is some hidden upside on the Memphis side in particular that ownership probably won't get there. But yeah, I think those are the two clear games. Those Memphis, Miami, Golden State, and Lakers. I think those are the ones you want to be heavier on when it comes to the spends. I'm hoping that we get a bad Giannis game, like it's the other guys getting there.
Yeah, just a blowout earlier or something. Other guys hit their shots. Yeah, that's definitely fine. Rio mentioned that. There's enough value on the slate to make that work too. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Michael W. in here as well, just in sports. Again, all we ask, like button, subscribe button on the way out. Helps us out a ton. PGA, Showdown Show, and MMA Show still to go on tonight on this channel. Again, we did screen share SaberSim the whole time. We do have a promo code if you're not a member at SHIPIT Nation. Don't know what you're doing. A million different sports going on. We got you covered, all sports, for one price. And that one price of $49 right now gets you all of our content and the SaberSim Core, which you can see right here. SaberSim Core gets you 250 lineups. You're able to see 150 and late swap, which is huge in the NBA streets. Again, MLB 50 takes you down from $99 to $49 for your first month. Definitely do get in the Discord if you do join as well. That's going to do it for us. Good luck, everybody. 7-game NBA slate. Again, MMA, PGA. Show later. Get in the Discord if you do join. Awesome stuff as always, Rio. Good luck tonight for Rio. I'm Titletown. Have a good night. Be safe. Peace.